For every smash hit, there were a dozen bizarre, high-octane shows that burned bright and then vanished forever. We're talking about muscle-bound sharks, vigilante cats, and superheroes so strange they make today's cartoons look tame. What many have overlooked is that these forgotten characters weren't just random cartoons, they were groundbreaking experiments. You're about to unlock a core part of your childhood you didn't even know was missing. They were half man, half shark, and 100% awesome. Street Sharks exploded onto the scene in 1994, riding the massive wave of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The premise was pure 90s gold. 4 brothers get transformed into crime-fighting shark hybrids by a mad scientist. What many overlooked is that this wasn't just a random idea. The show was created to promote an existing toy line from Mattel, the same company behind Barbie and Hot Wheels. You see, the action figure market was a battleground, and every company needed a mutant animal franchise to compete. The show's creators even hired a professor of marine biology to consult on the sharks' designs, ensuring each brother, Ripster, Jab, Streaks, and Big Slamu, was based on a real species. Their catchphrase, Jawsome, became playground gospel. The series ran for 40 episodes and was a merchandising machine, spawning everything from video games to sleeping bags. To put it mildly, these guys were everywhere. They even had a crossover with the Extreme Dinosaurs, another toy-driven show and a move that blew kids' minds. But as quickly as they arrived, they swam off into the sunset. But the sharks weren't the only animal biker gang on the block. If you thought sharks were cool, what about 3 super buff mice from outer space? Biker mice from Mars roared into our lives in 1993, and the show was pure, unfiltered adrenaline. Throttle, Vinny, and Moto weren't just bikers, they were freedom fighters escaping a war on their home planet of Mars only to crash land in Chicago. The thing nobody tells you is how huge this show was internationally. While it was popular in the US, it was an absolute phenomenon in the UK and Australia, often beating out shows like Power Rangers in the ratings. The show was packed with heavy metal references and a surprising amount of social commentary, taking shots at corporate greed through its main villain, Lawrence Limburger, an alien disguised as a human CEO. The level of detail was insane. The creators even gave each mouse a signature injury, like Throttle's damaged eyes and Moto's robotic arm, giving them a grittier edge than the cartoon counterparts. From mice on motorcycles, we moved to felines and fighter jets. SWAT Cats was a show that felt like it was designed in a lab to be the coolest thing a 9-year-old had ever seen. Premiering in 1993, it centered on 2 former military pilots, Chance T-Bone Furlong and Jake Razor Claw, who become high-tech vigilantes. They built their own fighter jet, the Turbo Cat, in a junkyard and defended Megacat City from an insane rogues gallery. Here's the wow factor. SWAT Cats was the #1 syndicated animated show of 1994, beating out industry giants. The show was created by the Hanna-Barbera studio, famous for the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, but it was darker and more action-packed than anything they'd ever produced. The network, however, thought it was too intense and eventually pulled the plug, sparking one of the first ever fan-led campaigns to save a show. We've already uncovered some wild shows, from biker mice to vigilante cats. Which of these have you actually heard of before? Drop a comment below and let me know if any of these were your childhood favorite. Your comments help the channel more than you know. But not all forgotten heroes were animals. Some were ancient, mythic beasts. 1,000 years ago, superstition and the sword ruled. It was a time of darkness. It was a world of fear. It was the age of Gargoyles. This show was, to put it mildly, a masterpiece. Debuting in 1994, this Disney creation was shockingly dark and complex. The story followed a clan of ancient gargoyles transported from medieval Scotland to modern-day Manhattan. By day, they were stone statues. By night, they were the city's protectors. What many people don't know is that the show's creators drew heavy inspiration from Shakespeare, particularly Macbeth, for its characters and tragic themes. It tackled mature subjects like prejudice, betrayal, and redemption. The show was so beloved that its first fan convention, the Gathering of the Gargoyles, began in 1997 and continued for over a decade. From stone beasts to a hero made of, well, dirt. Groovy. In the mid-90s, one hero was weirder than all the rest: Earthworm Jim. Born from a wildly popular video game, the cartoon series launched in 1995 and perfectly captured the game's surreal slapstick humor. The story of an ordinary Earthworm who stumbles upon a high-tech supersuit was a recipe for chaos. The show was famous for its bizarre villains like Psycrow and Queen Slug Furry Butt. But the thing is, the show's creator, Doug TenNapel, claimed the entire concept for Earthworm Jim came to him when he saw a friend trying to coax a worm out of the ground. The show was also a launchpad for incredible talent. In fact, the actor behind Jim, Dan Castellaneta, is the legendary voice of Homer Simpson. Jim was weird, but our next hero took zany to a new level. He's a hero for the ages, a lunatic in tights. Freakazoid was the brainchild of the same team that gave us Animaniacs, and it showed. Premiering in 1995, the show is a manic parody of the entire superhero genre. A nerdy teenager gets sucked into the internet and gains superpowers, but also becomes a total lunatic. Freakazoid was famous for its rapid-fire jokes, pop culture references, and constant fourth wall breaks. The wow factor here is the show's connection to the legendary director Steven Spielberg, whose company, Amblin Entertainment, produced it. Spielberg was reportedly a huge fan of the show's chaotic energy. Despite critical acclaim and an Emmy Award, the show struggled to find an audience and was cancelled after just 2 seasons, cementing its status as a cult classic. Next up is a hero who proved big things come in small packages. Mighty Max, Mighty Max. If you just sang that in your head, you remember the power of this epic show. Mighty Max started as a British toy line, similar to Polly Pocket, but aimed at boys, featuring tiny horror-themed playsets. The cartoon, which aired in 1993, gave the toys an incredible backstory. A kid named Max receives a magical cap that allows him to open portals all over the world. He's joined by an ancient owl mentor, Virgil, and a Viking bodyguard named Norman. What made the show so memorable was its surprisingly dark tone and a continuous storyline. The thing is, the show ended up with a jaw-dropping finale where Max learns he has failed and has to start his journey all over again. A shocking cliffhanger that left kids speechless. Okay, we are deep in the rabbit hole of 90s insanity now. If you're getting a massive nostalgia hit and love uncovering these forgotten pieces of pop culture, do me a huge favor and smash that subscribe button. It tells YouTube you want to see more content just like this, and trust me, you don't want to miss out on what we're digging up next. From a tiny hero to a big blue bug of justice. Spoon! Before superhero movies dominated the box office, there was The Tick. This cartoon, which premiered in 1994, was a brilliant satire of comic book heroes. The Tick is a massive, nigh invulnerable, but dim-witted hero who protects the city alongside his timid sidekick Arthur, an accountant in a moth suit. The show was based on an independent comic book, and what many overlooked is that its creator, Ben Edlund, was only 18 years old when he created the character. The show was praised for its clever writing and hilarious over-the-top monologues from The Tick. It was so influential that it later spawned 2 separate live-action TV series, proving that this big blue bug had some serious staying power. Our next character wasn't a hero, but he was always in trouble. It never hurts to help, unless you're Eek the cat. This purple feline was the star of one of the most delightfully chaotic shows of the 90s. Premiering in 1992 on Fox Kids, the show's entire premise was that Eek's selfless desire to help others would always land him in painfully hilarious situations. He was crushed, stretched, and blown up in every episode, but always survived with a positive attitude. The wow factor? The show eventually merged with another series to become the Eekstravaganza, which included segments of The Terrible Thunder Lizards, a show about 2 dim-witted dinosaurs trying to destroy humanity. The creator, Savage Steve Holland, also directed the cult classic 80s movie Better Off Dead. Now we have a cop who is completely, certifiably, bonkers. What happens when a cartoon star loses his job? He becomes a cop, of course. Bonkers was a 1993 Disney afternoon show with a wild premise. Bonkers D. Bobcat, a washed-up cartoon actor, joins the Hollywood Police Department and is partnered with a grumpy human detective, Lucky Pickell. The show was basically Disney's version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The thing nobody tells you is that there was a major production shakeup midway through the series. The show's initial set of episodes, with a different human partner, was produced but aired after the episodes with Detective Piquel. This created a bizarre, out-of-order timeline that confused many viewers and might have contributed to why the show has been largely forgotten, despite its prime Disney branding. These characters may be forgotten, but they prove the 90s were a fearless era for animation. So I have to ask, were these shows just too weird to survive, or did we let them down by forgetting about them? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the animation archives, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the media you thought you'd lost forever.